Pete the podcaster chatbot has joined the Sowing Seed team. For those of you that are on the YouTube channel, you can check out as I do a screen share here to give you an idea of who Pete is and what he looks like. Essentially, as a chatbot, his job is to help simplify basic tasks as it relates to the Sowing Seed podcast show. And so as I was looking to establish the show and put tools in place to make sure that we are maximizing growth, that we are simplifying the process and making it as easy as possible for our listeners to subscribe and to leave reviews and to share our content. A good buddy of mine who I've been in a mastermind with here for several years by the name of Jamie J introduced me to a partner of his, Pete, or Peter, who is an expert essentially in chats. And Peter's company has put together what he calls Pete the podcaster. And for those of you on YouTube, you can see what Pete looks like here. And essentially what Pete's job is to step you through some basic tasks that you would think are really, really simple, but oftentimes end up being relatively difficult, or not necessarily difficult, but just take more effort than they really should in today's day and age. So Pete was brought on board so that he can help you, the listener, do three things for the time being and help support Sowing Seed, help support our audience and its growth, and continue to get the word out. So number one, he helps you subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. Number two, he helps you leave an iTunes review. And then number three, he gives you the opportunity to share using social media his show to the folks that you know. All of those things are very, very, very important in the process of growing a show like ours. Now, just to give you an idea, the direction that we're heading, back in October, the show launched. I don't remember how many episodes we launched with, but we ended up having 15 downloads, I think it was, in the month of October, if I remember right. In the month of November, we ended up having 135, if I remember correctly. Well, here we are mid-December, and we are already over twice the number of downloads that we had in November, and are on track to at least triple our November numbers. Now, why is that? Well, number one, we've been spreading the word. We've started using tools like Pete to help in that process. But quite honestly, and most importantly, I believe that we are providing major value to people in thought process and in the growing seed portion, which comes out on Friday every week. You're getting a behind the scenes here that most have never had an opportunity to see, because I want to demystify this whole thing for you, the listener. Whether you ever decide to have a podcast or not, there are so many tools, there are so many things that happen behind the scenes that whether it be a podcast or whether it be just a typical business, so much of this growing seed content will have applicability to you. And it's our way of kind of peeling back the curtain and letting you be along for the ride from day one as we put this thing together. This isn't my first rodeo. This is actually my fourth show. And so I've learned a lot over the years, and I don't know all the answers, and we are no way, shape, or form even close to being some of the top in the industry with downloads or anything like that. But I've learned enough to be dangerous, and I ultimately think the content here in very, very short order is going to far surpass the other content that I have produced, because it's content that has applicability to everybody. So back to Pete. He was brought on board. It's a subscription model, just so you know. So I pay monthly for him serving me and the school Sowing Seed audience. And essentially, he will be residing on the sowingseed.net website, but then we will also be promoting him regularly on the show as a way for people to simply and efficiently subscribe, review, and share our content. Once again, for those of you guys that don't think you've ever dealt with a chat bot, you have. You probably just don't know it. And in many cases, whether it be talking on the phone and calling a major company or submitting an inquiry online, chances are you have dealt with a chat bot instead of a human being, at least at the early stages of that communication, whether you know it or not. So we're just deciding to leverage some of the technology that is up and coming today to simplify things for you and to help us get the word out to more and more and more people as we go. So anyway, if you have not yet, go to sowingseedpete.com and subscribe, review, and if you'd be willing to share with your sphere of influence the podcast and some of its content, Pete will help you with all three of those steps in literally just a couple of minutes of time. And because he's programmed to do so, shorten that entire process. By the way, you may be wondering, why do I want to take time to do this? Well, subscribers are how all of the numbers in the podcast world are based. Downloads are the data that everybody uses to kind of size up and to share the scope of listenership of a podcast. Reviews on iTunes, seeing how it is the most important platform today for podcasting and for locating and discovering podcasts, are imperative, because the more reviews a show has and the more listeners it has, the more viability it has and the higher up the rankings that it goes on iTunes, which means somebody going there for the first time searching for a topic or a category, those that rank the highest end up showing up. So that's a really, really, really big deal, and it helps more and more people find the Sowing Seed content as time goes on. So if you find valuable what we've been providing over the last month and a half or so thus far, you can expect to get more of the same 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with the Growing Seed portion of the show every Friday, where I share behind the scenes what it is we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and kind of give you an opportunity to peek behind the curtain for the first time in many cases ever, to get a feel for what it takes to put something like this together, etc. So anyway, thanks again for listening, guys. I appreciate you, and I'm humbled and honored that you would take a little bit of time each and every week to tune into the show. If you wouldn't mind going to sowingseedpete.com and subscribing, reviewing, and sharing the show, I would be eternally grateful. And man, just looking forward to sharing the ride. If you got any questions, if you got any topics that you would love to hear more about, do me a favor and just shoot me an email at sowingseedpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love, as time goes on, to provide more and more content based on what you want to hear and based on your feedback. Finally, a little teaser for next Friday's show of Growing Seed. Many of you have heard of the Amazon Echo. Many of you have probably heard of Alexa. I don't know if you have heard of, but there is something called the Alexa briefing. And actually, I've got Alexa here in the office right now. I think she's a little confused because she heard her name. But anyway, next Friday, we will talk about how we are utilizing the Amazon Echo as another platform to simplify the accessibility of the show and to provide value to eventually thousands, if not millions, of Alexa users as more and more and more households end up utilizing voice technology like the Echo provides to simplify basic tasks around each and every one of our homes. Thanks for listening, guys, and God bless you.